Hello strategy gamers and welcome to another Stellaris 2.2 beginner's guide. If you haven't watched that, I've created 3 videos so far. I've covered 1 guide on the planetary rework and 2 guides on the trade system and how trade has changed. Now this video is going to be focused on populations. I'm just going to be focusing on non-gestalt consciousness empires. So these are like humans and such with governments and stuff. There's slight differences with hive mind and robot empires, but I consider that's for advanced players, so I'm not going to cover that in a beginner's guide so much, but I'll just jump into them a little bit. But I might actually create a separate video for that. So if you're looking for hive mind and machine empire guides, then wait on my channel, subscribe to my channel, and I might have more content on that at a later date. Okay, so in this video I'm going to be explaining the very basics of population, and not only that, I actually have some pretty neat info, something of a hidden feature in Stellaris, something that allows you to customize your populations or pops. Stick around and I'll get to it at the end of this video. So let's begin by looking at our planet Earth here, and if we look at the planet summary screen over here, you'll see there's some new stats here. So this little bit here shows you the current population that you have, 63, and also shows you the breakdown of humans and robots, all the different species that you have on your planet. So this bit here shows you a breakdown of all the jobs you have on this planet. So you can see here that I have 3 ruler jobs, 3 people working as ruler jobs, and in specialist jobs there's a bunch of them, and most of them are in the workers jobs. And you can see that yes, there's 61, but there's 2 unemployed, but there is 63 people, so that's correct. So there's 2 unemployed people on this planet. So now in Stellaris 2.2, apart from just making sure that you have enough food for your population, you also need to think about housing. Together with the district system now, every district that you build creates housing. I believe each district gives you 2 housing. If I click on I just hover over here and it shows me that agriculture gives me +2 housing. All of these districts give +2 housing except for city districts. They give +6 housing. If you don't have enough housing for your population, then you can throw down a city district if you have the space for it. There are also buildings that create housing. I think there is actually a luxury residence here somewhere here that I built. Let me see. But it's okay. I can just show you. I can just show you here in the replay section here. Luxury residences. I can actually build luxury residences, which actually gives me a +3 to housing and +5 to amenities. Yeah, so the next thing is amenities. So before that, so if there's a lack of housing in your planet, what that causes is that it makes your population that don't have houses, right, to want to move out from the planet. So it causes emigration out of the planet. So the next thing is amenities. Paradox explains amenities as the infrastructure on your planet. How I like to look at it is that, you know, your pops are all work but no fun, no play. So amenities really are like entertainment zones, clubs, whatever it is, whatever that makes their lives better. Now, amenities only impact the happiness of your population, and your happiness actually has an impact on the stability of your planet, which is this number over here, which I will get to later once I've explained the rest of the population bit. Housing is required to house your population, and amenities is to keep them happy. Now let's look at the population tab. Okay, so this screen, there's quite a lot of information, but let's look at the jobs section first. As you can see here, for a non-gestalt consciousness empire, you have 3 different stratas. You can think these as your social class of your citizens as well. I have 3 strata of pops over here: the rulers, the specialists, and the workers. The rulers are basically from your planet administration buildings. The specialists are mostly from the buildings that you construct, while the workers are your pops that work in districts, right? And this little bit here showing the icons is basically showing you on the left hand side are the input, and the right hand side is showing you the output that strata of pops are giving you. So for specialists, you can see there's input of minerals and consumer goods, and the output is a bunch of science and consumer goods and even crime actually. Oh, that's actually enforces, that reduces crime. And a bunch of stuff that I can't actually see, but it's listed here in this pop-up, it's this tooltip. Alright, so the next thing is workers. Workers don't have any input, they work the land, either mining or agriculture or generators, right? So they produce energy credits, minerals, even amenities, right? Amenities and trade value as well, and food, yes, from my farms. You can actually click on each of these tabs. Actually, these are tabs to open up a whole bunch of your pops in more detail, showing you that you have two executives, what do they do, what do they give you. I have a merchant, what's the output of the merchant. This thing shows you the upkeep, and also there's a bit of explanation about what this job does basically. Let's look at workers, because workers is interesting here, because you can see my authoritarian government. Basically, I have slaves, right? So actually slaves are a sort of like a unseen fourth social class, a fourth strata. They are actually lumped together with workers because your slaves are workers, right? They are working in the field, but they have less rights and they use less resources. If we look actually on their happiness, of course they are not too happy. So every pop with the little chain thing here is basically a slave. I actually have a robot slave. That's a weird concept, really. This is one of the robots that I built on my planet, and it's set to servitude basically. And this is actually a soldier. Okay. So, and you can see here I have two unemployed pops. They're actually robots. So the unemployment doesn't cause happiness because these are robots. They don't get unhappy unless, of course, you have synthetics. Then they actually have full citizen right. Again, robots, a completely different guide from this. I'm just going through with you on the basics of population. So basically, that's the tree or four strata or social classes of your citizens. Now, there's something that is pretty neat, but it's not relevant to me right now, is this little plus and minus icon here. Basically what this does is that I can decrease the job priority. Basically I can take off one of these pops from this job and I can assign them to a different job. Now granted, my planets are basically experiencing full employment. I don't have open vacancies for jobs. I haven't built lots of districts and buildings. I've been very methodical with my building, making sure that I'm building it when there's actually unemployed pop. So I can't really move one out. Like for instance, I can take one out, you can see. So there's a disabled job and I can put them in somewhere else. But the thing is that because I don't have any other spare job, I can't put them anywhere else. So this is useful if you've outbuilt the growth of your citizens on your planet and you have a lot of jobs. So the game is defaulting to putting my pops to like working in the mineral district, but I don't, or the mining district. I don't want to put them in mining. I want this planet to be focused on agriculture. So then I can use this job priority tool here to sort of say, okay, I don't want them here, I'm moving them there. So yeah, in certain situations when you have more jobs than population, this can be useful here. Alright, so that's it with this part of the jobs, and let's move on to over here. There's a bunch of additional stats here. Some of the stats here have you seen housing, amenities from the planet summary part, as well as the current population count. So the first thing here is basically your pop assembling capacity. Basically, this is for robots, right? So how many robots you can build in a month. And the other thing here, migration. Okay, migration is an advanced topic here. A lot of the figures here are not visibly shown to the player. There's a lot of factors that the game takes into account and calculates what causes immigration and what causes emigration, right? So currently this thing gives you a breakdown of my current emigration, how many people are going out. So it's 0.41, so it's pretty low. Reduces monthly pop growth. So this emigration is basically minus my pop growth figure, so that minuses it by negative 0.41. The immigration pool factor, right? There are factors such as like there's ample housing, or there's lots of amenities, lots of resources, or lots of jobs that will have more immigration pool. And also high stability and free housing, as you can see there. Immigration push is really when you have lots of newly founded colonies that are lightly populated, and unemployment as well pushes people to migrate out of your planets. After that, you have this little pie chart here which tells you the current population of humans and robots, and basically my government ethics and stuff like that. Now, actually I need to show you a different planet just to show Alpha Centauri, maybe? Alpha Centauri? Yeah, because I wanted to show you a different planet, because Alpha Centauri actually has two species, humans and half Tal Akuran specialists. I mean specialists at their job. Half Tal Akuran, you can see here in this pie chart here that 19 are human and 13 are half Tal Akur. So you have these three little bits here. Let me go back to Earth just really quickly to show you this bit, because Earth has a robotics plant here. There's assembling. Assembling is you're only assembling robots, right? Species grow and there are also species that decline. So declining species would be due to emigration, or maybe you're purging undesirable species, like your authoritarian or hive mind empire conquers a planet and the existing population will be purged, will be murdered basically, and some of them will actually emigrate out of the planet trying to escape you basically. So there's nobody declining on Earth. Now let me get into the controversial part of Stellaris 2.2 pops, which is the growth factor here. Now if you hop onto the Paradox forums, you will find a lot of people don't really like how Paradox has sort of set what species would grow on each planet. So let's go back to Alpha Centauri here. So I'll show you. So basically I am playing a human empire. So once I've played like in mid game or something with open borders and stuff, I've got some other species in my empire as well. So these guys, as you can see here, I have 13 of them, and my humans, I have 19 human in Alpha Centauri Prime here. But you can see here is only growing currently half Tal Akur. So something that you have to keep in mind, each planet only grows one species at a time. So right now the humans are on pause mode basically, and the game decides, hey, you know what, we'll be growing these little cute little creatures half Tal Akur. So how does the game decide on what species to grow at any one time? Basically, now this is the controversial part here. The game basically gives the advantage to the minority species. So for instance, Alpha Centauri Prime, I've colonized this place. I have, let's say 5, oh no, let's just put it at 8 humans, right? And then I get one population of these half Tal Akur guys. And basically what happens to my growth population, the game shifts growth to this species on my planet, because it says, hey, these guys are minorities, we need to get them to equal status of humans, as long as they have full citizenship. Yeah, so full citizenship, game will push the minority species to get to an equal level to your majority species. So they will eventually cap out nearly the same as humans. So I have 19 humans. The game will push them to like 19. So there are other factors as well for the game picking which species to actually grow on your planet. It also looks at the habitability rating basically for that species, or rather that species on that planet. So if I'm not mistaken, the base is at 60% habitability rate. If that species has 60% habitability rate, it will be considered to be the species to grow, if it's a minority, of course. And if it's below 60%, I think there's a penalty to its algorithm, how it calculates what species to pick. And if it's above that, then it is a higher chance that it'll pick that. But again, this is also a pretty advanced topic. I actually plan on actually creating another video on this. But to be absolutely honest with you, the amount of negative feedback that Paradox has received from the player base on how the game calculates which species to grow, I don't know whether this particular feature will be changed. It most likely will be changed in the future, but right now, as I release this video, currently right now it picks the minority race. And basically, if you're a xenophile, then you're absolutely screwed. You don't have any population control options. Basically, any species can come to your planet, and your planet will basically be a equal of all species, which is, I suppose, kind of weird, but in some ways it also makes sense. Again, that's for another video because it's a pretty lengthy discussion about this thing. I don't want to spend too much of my time talking about this. But if you have any question about growth, or you have opinions about this, please do sound off in the comments below. So let's go back to Earth. You can see here on the growing part, there's actually a little lock here. If I click on the human icon here, you can see that I can actually select the species that I want to grow. Because I'm playing an authoritarian government, I actually have the ability to pick what species I want to focus on. But there is a caveat to this. There is actually a negative to this, because if you choose to use population control, then your population, basically there will be a pop growth speed penalty of -20%. So obviously, if you have a new colony, you're just growing it, this really isn't a good choice to do. There is no half-tower core in my planet, but there used to be 2 of them on Earth, but I shifted off them to a Tomb World colony actually, because they do better at Tomb Worlds actually, rather than continental worlds. So I'm going to pick, I'm going to remove prioritized species because it basically reduces pop growth. So if you're playing as a xenophile government, then you don't have the option of actually changing this. This will be completely locked. Now let's talk about approval rating. Now this is a really important concept to understand. So approval rating is related to stability, which I'll get to real shortly. So approval rating is basically saying how much support does your government get from your population, basically. So the approval rating is split between your different strata, social classes. So you can see that rulers are the happiest generally, and that little thing which shows the pen with a paper, that's basically their political power. So since I only have a few rulers compared to specialists, you can see that the game says that the specialists have a bigger percentage of political power because they're just more specialists than rulers. But if you compare pop to pop, one single ruler to one single specialist, rulers have way more political power than even specialists, right? And workers have very little political power, and slaves have even less political power, and their happiness really doesn't mean much to your empire, at least to an authoritarian government. It doesn't mean much. Robotic servants really, happiness, there's no political power, and their happiness basically zero. It doesn't matter. So with all the different approval ratings for all the different social classes, the game sort of averages it out and gives you a pop approval rating of 53%. Now if we get back to planet summary and we look at the stability rating here, you can see that because I have 53% pop approval rating, I get a +2 to my stability. So let me explain about stability. Stability is basically the prosperity and productivity of your planet, right? The more prosperous your planet is, the more productive your civilians, or rather your pops, will be. The lower the stability, the less productive they are. There's also chances of riots and strikes, and eventually it can lead to a revolt. So stability is a really important value here. The base stability, it always starts at 50, the maximum is 100, and the lowest is a 0. You start with a base of 50, and the game basically looks at all the different modifier and calculates your end stability figure basically. For in my case, because Earth is the empire capital, it gives me a +5 bonus to stability and a +2 because of my pop approval rating. So that approval rating is the same thing. 50 is the base, 100 is the top, and 0 is the lowest. So for every percentile above 50, I suppose you get a bonus to your stability. So effects from high stability, the game also explains to you what you get from high stability. So resources from jobs, I get an additional 4%, trade value +4%, immigration pool, basically getting people into my planet +2. The tooltip here explains that stability can be reduced by conditions such as overcrowding, low amenities, and even crime. So there can be instances where the economic situation of your planet and your empire can cause crime to fester in planets. That can really lower your planet's stability, but you can take certain decisions like sort of declaring martial law if crime is an issue. It increases stability, creates more soldiers, but it reduces pop growth and job production from job. So this thing about decisions here, you can decide on things on specific planets. Most of it actually has an adverse effect, but some of it, like for instance, like distribute luxury goods or encourage planetary growth. If you have the surplus food or consumer goods needed, then basically this thing gives you a boost. If you need a boost in amenities and immigration pool, or if you need a boost in pop growth speed, these are pretty useful. I mean, for a new colony, this is a pretty good thing that you can do, you know. The other thing I actually forgot to mention, your population, I might have mentioned it, the upkeep of your population. Let me just close that. If I look at my specialist, okay, and if I click, or rather hover over here, you can see the upkeep, 6 minerals, 1 food, and 0.5 consumer goods. Depending on their social class, their upkeep or their usage of consumer goods can be different depending on social class. So slaves don't get consumer goods, but they do get food though. Well, you know, that's a basic thing. But robots don't need that. Robots actually use, if I check out robots here, I click on workers here, and if I click on robots, yeah, their upkeep is that they use energy credits instead. So that's something that you have to keep in mind, right? So rulers would use more consumer goods with. If I click on rulers here, you can see 1, and specialists is 0.5, and workers use 0.1%. Now here's a really neat feature that's again kind of hidden in the game, but you can actually change this. Actually, you can change the political power for specific species in different social class. You can change how much food you give them, how much consumer goods you prioritize to them. Okay, how do we do this? Simple. We need to go to the menu over here, and we need to look for species. Once you click on species, let's say I don't like the look of these cute little guys here, so I'm going to change their rights. Now with Stellaris 2.2, they've added this thing here called living standards, because now you have a new district system and population system and all that. And okay, mind you that this is different from different governments and species, or in a human hive mind. There's some differences here, but living standards will always be there. If I click on this, you can see that there's a bunch of options here, and I'm currently at stratified economy, but if I hover over academic privileges, I can actually increase my upkeep for workers and slaves, but then they won't be unhappy. They'll just be okay with it. All right, but it would mean that so if I were to calculate everything for rulers, specialists, workers, and slaves, that's for consumer goods, that's 2.25, 2.3. So that's 2.3. So I'm going to increase the usage of my consumer goods if I select academic privilege. If I look at stratified economy, my total consumer goods used for the different strata, that's 1.5, 1.6. That's 1.6. So 2.3, that's quite a bit more actually. So if you want to make them happier, but you can see that actually by giving workers 0.1 and slaves 0, they are unhappy, but they don't have much political power. As you can see right below there, the pop effect there, rulers political power is plus 900%, specialists political power is plus 100%, workers political power is minus 25%, slaves have 0 political power. And there's a bunch of things here like social welfare here. Basically what it does is that it gives consumer goods to slaves, makes them happier. Decent conditions here, basically giving workers a bit more. Yeah, so you can see that social welfare, political power is a bit more for workers, and decent conditions is still pretty much the same, 700 to 100. Rulers don't like this thing here. There's also things like utopian abundance here. So this is like equality for all citizens. I can't select this because I don't have the egalitarian ideal basically. But if you're an egalitarian empire, then you could actually select utopian abundance. But again, this would mean you'll be using 3 consumer goods, right? So yeah, under species, and mind you, this is just for a specific species. So I'm not setting these things for every single species. So basically what you could do is you could have affirmative action for specific species. You could treat certain species more special than some other species. You can make them like just basic subsistence, for instance, and humans are like gods on the planet. If you wanted to do that, if you wanted to be like a racist empire, or an empire with like apartheid or with affirmative action, you could actually do that here. I'm not making any moral judgments here, but I think it's pretty cool that you can actually customize these things and really have different classes of like different species actually. But you know, if you want to play like freaking Star Trek or something where all races are equal, all species are equal, you could also do that. Utopian abundance, pick the egalitarian ideal, you'll be able to do that. So yeah, that's my explanation for the population in Stellaris 2.2. Mind you, this is a very deep and complex system, and some of it the fans don't quite like it. Some of it might be changed. Other than that, I think I've given you guys a pretty good explanation of population, every single basic fundamental thing. Now my next objective is to look at hive mind and machine empires. I have started new games on those, so I'll be playing and testing those things out, and I'll come up with a specific guide especially for those type of empires. I won't go too much into the basics of these new mechanics, but I will just go into the stuff that's different for those empires. So I hope this guide has been useful to you. If you have any questions, sound off in the comments below. If you have any comments about the changes to population and how pop growth is handled, please do tell me what you think about it. Do you think it should be changed, or you're okay with it? Do you think it's weird? I mean, a lot of people do think it's weird. So thanks for watching my video. Hope you enjoyed it, found it helpful. If you like this video, please do hit the like button, and if you like the videos I create, I'll create a lot of explanation videos on new games as well as guides in the future. If you like that sort of content, focusing on strategy games mind you, then hit the subscribe button. Thank you for the subscription, thank you for the view, and thank you for the like, and for your comments and your feedback as well. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.